Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Computer Wednesday, we're going to talk about EU regulation on Apple and Android. So let's dive deep into it. So we have to understand some history, why this regulation is important. We have to get some context. So context starts with history. Now what happened is in 1990, things changed. Mobile phone became mobile phone. It became a thing. And from 1990 to 2000, mobile phone became a real thing, meaning professionals were buying this. This movie also made it very popular and everybody needed it. And the moment professional needs something, yeah, you can be damn sure there is a lot of money into it, and lot of company jumped into the market, and of course not all of them succeeded, but more than enough succeeded that we had a very healthy market competition. However, while we were getting a lot of phone options, we kind of messed up, like really messed up is the simple charger side. Charging is surprisingly simple system. Basically, you detect the voltage, you arrange some curves, you're done, you're good. But we messed up. That part was messed up so much that it was a hassle for customers and e-waste. Like European Union estimated from this period, like I'm not talking about after this, from this period, they were talking about millions of unnecessary chargers. That is from 2000. And I'm like, what the hell? What happened after 2000? Yeah, that number went billions. So yeah, it was a hell of a hassle. So we started, phone became real, phone became important, and people started to make phones. That's awesome. It's just that we messed up the charging part. So European Union came to the front and they created a new system known as Common External Power Supply. Now this system was a voluntary compliance, meaning we would like you to subscribe to this, follow this architecture. And ironically, or like almost like a goodwill gesture, majority of manufacturer agreed, which also included Apple. I'll talk about that in later, but almost all manufacturers, be it Samsung, Motorola, Panasonic, whatever have you, almost all companies jumped into it and agreed to it. And it was active from 2009 to 2014, and it was very successful. It actually allowed from this octopus to be disappeared. Like we can actually just have plugs, just put it in, don't even worry about it. Because be mindful, I'm old enough, 30 years old. Most of you may be the similar age, so you must have known, like you could have literally, hey, I have this Nokia port. No, this is Sony Ericsson port. Nokia also had Nokia had three that I have played personally. There's like one pin one slim pin one flat one. Oh, Samsung also had like two or three of them. So issue was very real, very serious, where like everybody was just going all out with garbage. So they created a standard. So standard required protocol. So protocol was USB charging protocol version 1.2. Now this protocol was using physical port of micro B. This was made and everybody agreed to it. From 2010, things became good. In Android world, everything became good. First, mobile phones all went to one port, and then slowly smartphone just carried over the legacy. Everybody was happy, everybody was enjoying it, and the idea was that you're gonna have a AC to DC converter, you're gonna have a cable, and you're gonna have micro B. So idea was these parts separation actually allows to sell you the phone without selling you the charger. And yes, this was by design from European Union's point of view, that these puppy, that AC to DC converter, these puppy last forever. Like inherently there is not that much bad, and specifically in European Union where their grid is actually stable, really good in terms of frequency, voltage and all that regulation, these do not die. And of course in India they go poof very quickly, because again we do have a lot of voltage fluctuations. So unless you are in one of those scenarios, these things could last you forever. Like you could literally go through 3 to 4 phones before this goes out. So why give that? So from day one, they had this idea. You're going to have adapter, you're going to have a cable, and that's why like USB-C ports became a thing. Why I'm saying USB-C? USB ports. So either you will have normal AC jacks or USB jacks. You can see that in airports. I have went to Kanpur Metro. The coaches itself has USB ports. So it saved us all from e-waste and mess. Meaning if you are a dude and you're traveling, if you forget your charger, you forget your charging cable, there's a very good chance you can just plug anyone else's in, and everybody could help everybody else out. And it worked. Things went smoothly. Everybody was happy with this, and again it was very successful till 2014 when they retired this system because it was becoming a bit old, a bit outdated. But oh, this is the same time USB 3 became a normal thing. So you can see that like it was designed for USB 2.0. So USB 3.0, they needed a bit more leg room. So they retired this puppy. It was very successful. Every company signed on to it, including Apple, and everybody was happy. E-waste reduction went drastically, and this octopus mess disappeared. Then we come to Apple. Now, Apple does not print money via iPhones. Now you're like, isn't iPhone very successful? Absolutely. But iPhone also takes a lot of money in to make iPhone. Many times people will tell you, oh, the bill of material of iPhone is very low, which is factually true. Is that you have to understand about the R&D cost. That's idiotically high. Basically, and the software team that has to keep working on it after it has been released. So the total profit margin for per iPhone is not that high. Like from Apple Incorporation's point of view, iPhones are like, it's good, it's very successful in terms of like getting their name out, getting in this, like, you know, everybody knows about it, everybody associates it with luxury goods, everything is awesome. It's just that in terms of profit, it's like, it's not a Rolex, let's just put it that way. Rolex is like, you make it for $1,000, you sell it for $20,000. It's not that. So how do they Apple make money? Apple is almost $2 trillion company. So how does Apple make that much money? Well, app stores. Now, this is one thing that Apple kind of figured out very early on, and it was like a dual-edged sword. The idea was they're gonna keep polishing the phone even after release, meaning phone is released, it's not abandoned. They're gonna keep polishing it. They're gonna keep upgrading it. They're gonna keep refining the software kernel and all that jazz. Now, it did allow the iPhone to have early edge. On early years of Android, it was lol. Android was just lol. Back in those days, we were not talking about phones. We were talking about which operating system had. Oh, it had Oreo. Oh, it had Kit Kat. Yes, that's how old I am. Jelly Bean. It's like, because we had to talk about, like, phone used to come with those things. And then update. What is update? iPhone really figured this part out very early on. Why? App Store. They figured out it was far more effective to have millions of sale, but small millions of sales. So App Store allowed them to like really print money. However, it came with a consequence. They reduced their hardware sale. Fundamentally, if you make a phone that actually lasts, the early years, everybody was upgrading. But you can notice that in Apple, very early investor meetings, they always, we sold like 500,000 mobile phones, 600,000. It was always going up. And then they suddenly disappeared. Yeah, they were not growing. Again, once people bought, everybody who could afford iPhone already did. So it reached a point. And because old iPhones were actually holding their value, it reached a point where it's like, I don't really need a new iPhone. So how do you make money? Like, of course, you are making money. Let that be very clear. But you are not like printing money, you know. You're like, I can just buy one yacht. Like, you're not like, you know, Omega rich. So how do they do that? Well, they made for iPhone, iPad. And this logo, you may think that this is like, this is chump change. No. This puppy prints money. Meaning from Apple's point of view, this puppy costs them very little, insignificant. And how much money it brings in, it's like, that's why you do not have USB-C. That's why Apple have to be proprietary. This puppy prints them money, way too much money, more money than you can think of. It's like, in terms of profit margin, this is like, shut up, take money. So how the heck this plays? Well, they created a very simple idea, is that we're going to give you proprietary BS. We're going to give you as low quality as possible. Be mindful, Apple is a $2 trillion company, and they could not design a cable that does not split from here. Like, there are engineers who have looked into it and they were like, dude, Apple willingly is designing this. They're like, this strain relief has to become a conical. So it flexes a little bit on top, little bit less in the bottom, and then it's like very rigid. So it gives you flex, like, you know, proper flex. This hard edge is like, it's inherently designed to self-destruct. Like, it's bad. Like, everybody complains about this. Like, how? But then you realize, most people who buy iPhones, they are very poor. They cannot afford to buy the brand new one, like actual Apple certified first party. Now, these things will cost Apple chump change to make. They will make them for, let's say, $1 or $2, but they will sell you for, let's say, $50, $60. So margin there. So those take care of the rich people. But what about poor people? Poor people, they cannot buy the brand new one, and their cable will not last, so they have to do something. And what they do, they go to third parties, let's say Anchor. Just one example. There are many companies that make it. And accessories also require this stamp. So the manufacturer, basically Sony, Anchor, these companies, they have to go to Apple, get this logo certified, and every piece they sell, royalties, baby, money. Now, of course, the documentation, how exactly this is company to company basis. So I'm pretty sure the Anchor will get a different deal compared to Sony. But you get the point. Like, they are getting money from the first party, they are getting money from third party also. And why the heck European Union did not bitch slap them? Well, there was a quote unquote law. Because be mindful, this was memorandum of understanding, not a law. So MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, had a clause that if you are making a very small device, be mindful, this is very early days, and there was a new device known as iPod Nano. There was a clause put into it that if you are making something very small, genuinely small, where you cannot physically put micro B port, How about you use an adapter but use USB on the other end? And that's how Apple successfully yeeted the entire European Union. They're just like, we're gonna mess you up, bro. So use of an adapter, that line, that literal line, because it did not have any specific clauses like, bro, if your device can fit it, put it. There was no law there. That's like, oops. So this became a thing. This became a money printing machine. Accessories market. That's why Apple simply cannot let go. Apple has to make garbage. They have to make proprietary BS. They cannot give you a monitor that's just like, oh, it's a monitor. You connect things to it, it works. It's like, no, 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 sir. We have to give you garbage. So you have to buy our garbage. So you have to understand that crappy cables equals free printing money from users forever. So one iPhone, good. How many charging cables you have bought? All the money. And be mindful, I am Apple stores, app stores is already printing money. So now they are getting double money. That's why this logo is the reason we do not have good, nice things in Apple ecosystem, fundamentally. So European Union got the bitch slap and they was like, okay, we gotta level up. So new ecosystem was created, Radio Equipment Directive. Do not ask me who the heck comes up with this name. And yes, this is not a complete name. You have to also type a number 2023. It's weird. Do not look into it. It will give you a headache. But this is what they are talking about, Radio Equipment Directive. And this time, they are fighting back. This time they're not nice. This time they're not memorandum for understanding. This time it's missile in your ass. So they're targeting Apple and Android. I'll explain the Android part. And this time, no holes part. This time, everything that is portable, is charged by a cable, has to use USB-C. Your camera phones, DSLR, mirrorless, all of that has to use USB-C. I'm like, could you not have done that in 2015? Or like the original system? Like my DSLR does not have USB charging. Now everything will have it. That would be awesome. Your game consoles, your basically anything that is small, has battery, more or less you have to use it. Everything. And this time it's the law. This time it's like, no, you cannot, nah, bro, nah. This time they're no. And this time any specification they are giving you, like for smartwatches, they're clear about it. It's smartwatches. You can go lol on smartwatches. Anything else, no, sir. So it's very low. And all mobile phones get the timeline of before 2024, meaning before 1st January 2025, every single device should be USB-C compliant. Like no BS, no hulululu, no jingalala, everything. From tablets to basically e-readers to cameras to in some designs people are even pushing it to for drill batteries and all that. Like go YOLO. Like there is no point where it's like, no sir, you have to use this. Very real. And including laptops. Now you may be like, doesn't laptop need a bit more oomph? Well, yes, it does need a bit more oomph. So companies are giving them extra 2 years, European Union. So they have by 2026. Now, why the heck that extra time? Well, the reality is new modern low power laptops are under 100 watts. That's awesome. That's GG. That can be done today and you can buy it in the market. Apple already has product, Dell has product, HP has product that run on normal USB-C. However, the majority of beefy laptop, they cross that threshold by a little bit, like 130 watt, 150 watt. What the hell to do? Well, the new standard of power delivery has been created. USB-C power delivery, 240 watts. Now, is there any laptop that exceeds this? Majority of the laptop, no. Just like literally countable models of laptop exceed 240 watt. Of course, edge cases and all that, but 240 watt is more than sufficient. How the heck they're giving 240 watt in that tiny port? Well, by increasing voltage. They can't increase the amps because again, the cable is physically limited by thickness. You cannot just put like giant conductors there, and it's already carrying upwards of 20 amps. So it's powerful. So how do you increase the voltage? Well, we started with 5 volts, then we went to 7 volts, then we went to 9 volts, then we went to 12 volts, then we went to 20 volts, then somebody just went, let's go lol. Let's go to the upper limit of voltage, which is 48 volt. Now you're like, why the heck that's the upper limit? Well, by law in almost all country, if you are below 50 volt, it's classified as low voltage. What does that mean? That simply means if you touch those terminal, 99.999% of the time, the voltage should not jump inside of you, unless you're putting in your tongue. In that case, bye-bye. But in most scenario, if I touch the terminal that is 50 volt, I should not go poof. So that's why even in power over Ethernet is designed to be around 48 volt. You do not want to cross that. Even the modern internal combustion engines, they are upgrading the voltage from 12 volt to 48 volt. They are not going above that. That's by design. And it also improves your cost on insulation. The moment you exceed that, your insulation cost goes up exponentially. So 48 volts will allow 240 amps. So that's how laptops will be taken care of. Now they are very clear. This time they are like, they learned from their mistake. This time it's like, no, 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 sir, you cannot just say we draw. Like, do you have an actual reason? Like, if you are like, let's say you're genuinely talking about a laptop that has dual GPUs, Alienware, some bonkers stupid things, yeah, of course. But in most of the time they will not give you the leeway. This time it's like, no leeway, thou shall not have leeway. And Android, while Android did much better compared to basically Apple, they still figured out a way to F the customer. They were like, what if we F the customer? This was the mess of Android. For example, VOOC charger, warp charger, super fast charger, turbo power charger, and I don't even know how many chargers BS is there. Qualcomm also has a few variants. So how the heck this happened? Well, because company just went, what if we have the customer? So problem with this ecosystem is that, yes, you can connect Samsung to OnePlus, it will charge it. You can connect Oppo to Motorola, it will charge it. But here's the deal. If the charger has the capacity, let's say these chargers, all chargers are high speed chargers. All of them can easily give you 60 watts of power. 60 is a bit much, but let's just go with that. Your mobile phone can absorb 60 watts of power. They will only do so if they are in the same ecosystem. For example, OnePlus will only work with Warp systems. Other brands will only work with VOOC. Other brands will only, Samsung will only work with this. Why? Handshake. So that 5 volt, that early basically USB specification, it was for 5 volts. So 5 volts, a certain amount of amp, handshake is default. So it will only fail if you have some fault. So you will not fry your devices. So everything is nice, everything is tidy. But the moment you have to go above, basically you have to do handshake and be like, hey, give me 9 volts, give me 20 volts, whatever have you. The moment you do that, the handshake protocol is not standardized. Every company is using their own LOL device. So this is the LOL device, LOL device, LOL device. It's just the handshake. The voltage part, the amps part, that's not the hard part. The hard part is the protocol, the handshake. So this time European Union make a missile specifically for Android as, that is, if you exceed 5 volt and you exceed 3 amps, which is around 15 watts, you have to support USB power delivery standard. Now USB power delivery standard, even the lower variants supports 100 watts. So more than sufficient for majority of Android phones, even the high end ones, like, because they, most of the time 20 watts is good, 60 watts really good, 120 watts, yeah, you are shortening the lifespan. So we will not have that issue. And nowadays some gaming phones and some very high-end phones, they do have this issue where it's like you connect it and it will say not sufficient energy to charge, even though it's USB-C. It's just like, yeah, I'm not, handshake is not happening, this cannot pump the power. So this time power delivery protocol has to be used. So hopefully if you buy a mobile phone in late 2024 or 1st January of 2025, you should never ever worry about this garbage. You should be like, I buy a phone, I do this. So what will this have? They will have a rating that will say 30 watts, 15 watts, 20 wattage. That's it. That's all they will say. So even if you're buying a new phone, which that's the reason why they're not going to include any charges in the box, you just buy it and you're like, this can absorb 60 watt, but my old 30 watt charger is working fine enough. I'm gonna connect it. Does it work? Yes, I do not need to buy a new one. If you upgrade your phone again and now it's requiring more, and let's say your charger is like still working, you can postpone it if you do not need to. And you're like, hey, I need to upgrade it. Upgrade it. Now, you do not have to marry both of them together. You do not have like, oh, I have OnePlus, so I have OnePlus chargers. Or I have Oppo, I have VOOC chargers. Or I have Samsung, so I have this part charger. So fundamentally, they are fixing the Android mess also. So no more Hululu chargers. We're gonna have a future where everything just plug it in and works. And Apple is the only company that figured out a way to mess this one up. So if you connect a USB-C power delivery, they're gonna be like, I'm gonna heat up your phone. Of course, it will not cause any damage. They are just like very bitter about the fact that European Union fired a missile at their ass. So that's why it heats up. And it will not like, will not let you, because like they're inherently being what you call petty about it. So this time European Union is not messing around. They're like, no, you gotta do this. And I'm really happy with the laptop part. And some companies are also suggesting we should include drill batteries, many things. Like 240 watts is like a lot of oomph. So is there any risk in that? Well, unfortunately, yes. Like read any history of any country, any legislative body, you will find very quickly that government regulation starts out always good. Like government regulation, good. And it slowly ends up causing harm. Like you could literally have like, oh, we have this law because this bad thing happened, so we created this, and now it's causing like 10,000 more damage. And yes, it does happen. Entirety of history is filled up with that. So we have learned it the hard way that regulations should be as minimal as possible. But if you do not do that, we become in other hassle. So we have learned it the hard way that now from 2025, we are walking on very thin ice. So because regulation requires bureaucracy. Bureaucracy by design is very slow, non-adaptive in terms of speed. So fundamentally, we are stuck. We are literally choosing between lesser of two evil. And we know from history, regulation should not be required, because the moment you add regulation, you'll think, oh, this is helping. And over time, you'll be like, why the heck there is no growth here? Or why the heck like nobody is creating new jobs here? Or why the heck this is not happening? That is like, you have so much regulation mess work, paperwork. It's like people are like, dude, I can make fusion reactor in my home. I just do not want to deal with your paperwork. I'm exaggerating, but you get the point. Like, it is known fact that if you have way too much regulation, it backfires. And this could force stagnation over decades. Not on day one, let that be very clear. It will not happen overnight. It will not happen in 2030. It will happen in 2040. Why? Well, if you're forcing every device that needs to have a port, have to have USB-C port, that fundamentally means nobody is researching on new types of port. Could there be a new type of port? Absolutely. Imagine a future where you have basically 4 conductor ports, where 2 conductors are copper wires and 2 of them are fibers. Now you have infinite connection speed, especially on short distance. In long distance, of course, you will have limitation, but imagine what kind of world we could have. But we cannot, because nobody will now develop it, because they're like, hey, the ports have been mandated by law that we cannot change it. No research and development would happen. So in long term, yes, it will cause stagnation. And maybe we are lucky, like European Union removes it, that like same way they did with micro B, where they're like, after 2014, they're like, yeah, it's getting outdated, let's remove it. But what if they did not? Because be mindful, data speeds can keep going up. So data speed right now, you're lucky if you're getting 5 Gbps. It can easily, same physical port can easily support up to 40 Gbps. So port data is not limitation. Wattage is limited because again, the conductor size and all that. So, but 240 watt is significant. Like, what the hell? Like, future laptop should consume less power than today. Should not consume more power. So it will create an issue. Now, how the heck we got in such a sticky position? Well, it always starts with a company going full stupid and knowingly making life hard. Basically, companies are like, what if we F the customer? The moment company gets that itch, what if it's like, the moment that happens, we suffer, and we scream. Who do our screams go to? It goes to government has to force it, and then in long term, we scream again. For example, I'll give you a realistic, real world example. Apple with iOS had USB-C, like with iOS. And be mindful, USB-C port, where do you think this port came from? Was USB-C made by no one? No, hell no. It was made by a lot of competent engineers. Interesting part, lot of them were from Apple. Apple literally worked together with USB Forum to build USB-C. And I mean actual engineering, actual specification, actual data sheet, actual port. All of them was developed in conjunction with Apple. Apple poured their money into it just so they can have USB-C standard. And they introduced this as early as, if I'm not mistaken, 2015. Or maybe even before that. So USB-C was announced with MacBook. And that time people were like, whoa. It's like, Apple is looking into the future, USB-C, power, data, all of them. So why the heck a company that is Apple itself, that paid for its own development, for the development of USB-C, is not using that for iDevices? Simply because of that stamp. And even in that iDevices, there was a big jump from iOS and iPad ecosystem. This iPad ecosystem, this iPad Pro had USB-C. And here's the deal, you should really Google that system when Apple introduced a USB-C. They were not shutting up about it. It's like, USB-C is so awesome. By the way, they had already made this Lightning connector. So they knew, factually they knew that USB-C is superior than Lightning. But they are like, what if we F the customer? What if instead of making millions of dollar profit per month, what if we make 10 million more? So fundamentally, that created an issue, very bad issue. That's why, like, this time European Union is so hard on. This time they're like, nah, Apple, nah, bro, nah. We know you pissed on our face. We gonna burn you. And let's come to Android. Now you may be like, hey, Android, they did not have a standard. Yes, they had. This is USB Power Delivery Revision 1.0, the first one, the earliest one. This was made in 2012. And here's the deal, you will notice it had 5 volt voltage rate, it had 12 volt voltage rate, it had 20 volt voltage rate, and you can easily go up to 100 watts. There were no smartphones that were consuming 100 watt of booster charging at that time. Meaning, if companies were using this, and be mindful, this was keep getting upgraded, keep getting revision, they would have worked with this. By 2014, new versions were created with more voltage there. I think 7.2 volt was added, 9 volt were added, like more voltage rails were added. Like, if people would use this, we would not have the Vook charger, Hulululu charger, Jingalala charger, the e-waste charger, the more brain damage charger. We would not have that. We would like, hey, we have this. Everybody was working on it. But that's that itch that is like, what if we really that that's the painful part of this. Like, I do not like the idea of the government doing it, but I understand it. Like, for example, in India, we have a lot of e-companies that are making e-vehicles, and most of them are like, I have no idea. Like scooties, there is a standard known as Combined Charge Standard 2, CCS2. Awesome system. It has AC, DC, everything supported. Single phase, multi-phase, everything supported. It is built with knowledge. It is built with wisdom. Companies are like, what if? Like, there is one scooty company that's really good, made by startup. Everything is good. They were like, what if we take this CCS2 charger? It has like 2 prong on top of it. It's like, what if we put 4 prongs? Because F the customer. And then there is this new company who bought from Netherlands, electric vehicle Ola. And then they're like, what if we threw away that system? We've created a new BS. And now I know government has to be forced into a situation whether they create a new garbage standard just for two-wheeler, or they just force everybody to use CCS2, and people come up with like a random description. It's like, oh, it's the biggest. This is the size of CCS2 receptacle. It can be adjusted in a giant vehicle. It's just like, tell an engineer, bro, take 1 month, figure out where to put it. They're like, dude, I get this. It's doable. But companies are like, what if we F the customer? What if we really F them for our like speed charging, our this charging and all that? Instead of everybody just agreeing, do we have something good? We have something good? Awesome, let's just use it. No. Every company is like, what if we and then government is forced to fix it. So, and which again backfires again. So there is genuine risk, and I'm genuinely disappointed that Apple forced it and Android forced it on European Union, but it is what it is. Let's just put it that way. It is what it is. So this was my presentation on the regulations that is happening on Apple and Android. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help you a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't learn from it, I would urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.